Welcome to Anything is Possible, the Boston Celtics podcast here on the Athletic Podcast Network. Today's episode is brought to you by Direct TV Stream. Get your TV together with the best of live and on-demand products. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's right, we got a presenting sponsor, folks. I am Sam Jam Packard, professional sports fan, and I am joined, as always, by the kid, the god, the legend himself, Celtics beat reporter from The Athletic, Jay King, ladies and gentlemen. And we are coming to you with a jam-packed show. Just so much news out there in Celtics land. We have a Josh Richardson extension. We have workout videos of Jayson Tatum. We have a Taco Fall departure. We have 76er drama. And best of all, we have questions from you, the listener gods. But Jay, let's start with the biggest piece of news that actually I think dropped 20 minutes after we finished recording last week. The Celtics decided to extend Josh Richardson for another season, basically giving him another $12 million for next year.
That is correct.
I was confused by why that was because I thought there was some value in having an expiring contract, but can you shed some light onto kind of what the thinking was behind giving him that kind of deal?
I think number one is that the Celtics are trying to build a long and athletic defense around Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Marcus Smart. And Josh Richardson is a guy who's 6'5" and loves pressuring the ball. And I think they believe that Richardson fits into that vision, fits in as a piece next to those guys who can be very versatile, very flexible, and very aggressive. And, you know, Brad Stevens said this summer that the first thing he wanted to do was get more mature, bring in some veterans, and bring in toughness. And Richardson is both those things. He's a younger guy a younger veteran rather, who's played a lot of minutes and played on some good teams and didn't have the best year last year, but they think, I believe, that he just fits into the vision of building a really good defense around those guys. Is he a perfect fit long term? We'll see. But they thought that Richardson, getting him at that deal would be good value, whether that's on the Celtics or in a move at some point. So we'll see. We'll see what's going on. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is the defensive versatility.
Yeah, the thing that confused me about the deal is I thought there was definitely some value in having an expiring contract, but I think I was kind of a little backwards in my thinking I was in let's clear max cap space mode for next offseason. But once you extend Marcus Smart and once you extend Robert Williams, there is just no avenue for them to get max cap space. And so kind of locking Richardson in, I think makes sense, I guess, from what you mentioned on the defensive end. I'm very skeptical of what he can do on the offensive end. Like, he's just not shown to be anything other than a mediocre mid-range shooter. And so, like, is paying that a guy who I think is not a starter level player, especially not a two-way player, over $10 million worth it? Possibly, but I think it doesn't really ruin their flexibility, because then you can still do a sign and trade with him. He still is in that kind of range of salaries where, say, Bradley Beal does demand a sign and trade next year, or there are just options where you need to match salaries. He's kind of had in that mid-tier contract range where you can package him with Al Horford or whatever number of picks. And it really doesn't do much for long-term flexibility issues, because it is that only a one-year deal. So I was confused by it initially, but I don't think it really hurts the Celtics. It's not like it completely derails any kind of long-term flexibility. And I do think it maintains its salary matching for trades in the future. I'm just kind of skeptical as Josh Richardson, the player, just because we've seen him not really work in Philadelphia, not really work in Dallas.
Yeah, but obviously, you know, things will be different in Boston. In Philadelphia, his lack of shooting was just kind of destructive because it was next to Ben Simmons, because it was next to Joel Embiid, because that team desperately needed more shooting.
You
more
spent the
playmaking.
entire last podcast talking about how desperate this team was for shooting, though.
But that's in the supporting cast. And so, like, Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, the two stars, are very good shooters. And so it's a little different fitting pieces around those guys versus fitting pieces around Simmons and Embiid, who aren't shooters and need that space desperately. You know, Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown can thrive on the perimeter themselves. So I do think the fit is a little different, and we'll see. I mean, obviously, he's coming off a pretty down year. By the playoffs, I think he averaged like 13 minutes a game in the playoff series, so that wasn't great. His
On
shooting,
a team that desperately needed shooting around Luka, like
yeah, but I mean,
something on offense.
He's not like a pure shooter, but I think from a standpoint of bringing toughness, and especially if the vision is defensive versatility and kind of having size in the backcourt, then Marcus Smart and Josh Richardson are two ball hounds who I think will be able to set a defensive identity. And I think if you unleash those two guys on ball handlers, then the other team's probably going to have a pretty tough day, especially when you put Tatum, Brown, some of the other guys next to them. We'll see how it works. He obviously needs to resuscitate his value a little bit. Like Schroeder, he's coming off a year where he didn't fit too well and kind of saw his value diminish a little bit. But in the worst case scenario, 1 year from now, Richardson's on an expiring deal that's not horrible value at all. And even this past year when he wasn't great, even the year before in Philadelphia where he didn't fit well, like, he's a pretty useful player. And he played big roles on each of those teams. So I don't think this could possibly end up being a disaster deal for the Celtics at all. And if he turns into a piece that fits next to Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, if he can refine some of the shooting that he had in Miami earlier in his career, then maybe that turns into a nice extension that allows them to line up a top 6 or top 7 rotation guy for a pretty reasonable price.
Does he, like, where do you rank him in terms of the Celtics, like, perimeter defenders? Because he's primarily, just looking at Basketball Reference, lined up at shooting guard. I know those position estimates are not like the best, but is this a guy who's going to switch on to kind of bigger wings, or is he your kind of second guy after Marcus Smart who you're putting on the other team's guards?
I think he'll probably spend a lot of time on just about everyone. And I think that's the point for the Celtics. Like, they want guys who can guard a whole bunch of positions. And if you're starting, let's say Marcus Smart does start at point guard, which I think is most likely at this point, then if you put Richardson next to him, like, that's a big, athletic, versatile backcourt that can really cause problems for other teams. Now, is the shooting ideal? No, absolutely not. But I think, they're going to lean on Tatum. They're going to lean on Jaylen Brown. They're going to lean on Al Horford, too, for shooting and playmaking. And, if those other guys can really lift the defense up from its 13th place finish last year, then that's kind of the goal for the Celtics, is to get tougher and get more defensive minded again after some of those, a couple of the last 3 teams kind of took the foot off the gas on that front. And Richardson, he's a guy who must know at this point, like his value has diminished. A couple of years ago when the Sixers got him, it was a big deal for them, and he was considered, a major acquisition. And now the Celtics picked him up for basically nothing. Like, they didn't have to trade anything.
Gave up 0 assets.
Yeah. So he's got to know where his career is right now, and he's another guy like Schroeder who's kind of desperate to play his way back up the value rankings.
If only they could combine
the value rankings. What the fuck are value rankings?
Well, I don't know, but they got to back them up.
Also, why do you look like you should be playing a white supremacist in a movie?
I actually just got my first feature film role. I'm playing White Supremacist 3 in the latest Spike Lee joint.
For those who are going to be listening to this podcast and not watching it live on YouTube, Packard he shaved his head. He's got very close cut now. He's wearing a black wife beater.
It's with
And
Jaylen Brown's face on it. I don't think a white supremacist would be wearing a Jaylen Brown tank top, but
I thought that was just a straight up black wife
no,
beater.
that'd be insane. But I don't know. I went a little bit shorter than I normally go. It was a bold decision in the barber chair. I asked for just normally I get a little bit short on the sides and then a little bit longer on top, and then I just didn't like the way longer on top was looking. I just said shave it all off, and so it's what I'm going with right now.
Nate Schofer believes I always come sideways because of my own insecurities. But Nate,
I don't
I'm the
know if
most
it's
secure
because
motherfucker who ever lived.
I don't know if it's because of your own insecurities. I just think you like to talk shit, and we can like try to like boil down where that comes from. But I think you're pretty secure. You just kind of a dick.
Yeah, I'm a guy. I'm a guy, and guys talk shit.
There you go. Jay King, known guy. After a vigorous debate last week about Jabari Parker and Carson Edwards of who's going to get the final roster spot.
You love that talk.
I mean, we didn't settle it, but it's become a little bit clearer because we know one guy who's not going to get that last roster spot or even a two-way spot. Taco Fall ended up signing with the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have one of the most outrageous center big man rotations in the league right now. But I just wanted to commend Taco Fall because I do think he evolved from what was originally kind of like a sideshow, kind of like a joke. And I do think he improved his play in the NBA. Obviously not enough for the Celtics to want him, but it's just cool for him to get another chance just because he's just like a very nice individual and seemingly just an awesome dude.
The taco experience was so much fun. I'm a guy who doesn't always love fun.
Yeah, especially at basketball games.
I'm a guy who can fight back against fun, but the taco experience, there was something just pure about it. Like at first it kind of made me uncomfortable because crowds were chanting for this huge guy only because he's 7'5". But he's such a good dude that he enjoyed it. He was like almost bashful about it. Even Brad Stevens leaned into it a little bit.
He handled it better than anyone I think could have, because I agree with you. At the first, I was pretty uncomfortable. Like you're just making fun of this guy.
When they were in Las Vegas, it was like this whole crowd is just making fun of this guy because he's way taller than anyone else. But then he just kind of went with it and rolled with it, and I appreciate it. Taco was just joy, man. Just joy. A 7'5" package of joy. That's all he is. And I hope he can make himself into an NBA player and kind of prove that he deserves to stick in the league because he's a good dude and somebody who everyone seems to love. Every single person seems to love Taco.
It's going to be interesting to see if he gets any playing time on the Cavs because I just
it's a training camp deal, so he's going to have to earn.
Oh, it's only guaranteed through training camp?
I believe so, yeah.
That's interesting. Well, the Cavs made an interesting deal in trading away one of their centers for Lauri Markkanen in a deal that I guess you can sign Lauri Markkanen for 4 years. However, what was that, like $67 million? Sure, why not? And trade away the guy who everyone on your roster is a huge fan of and is like a great community person, Larry Nance. But
Larry Nance doesn't shoot 40% from three on high volume.
But you also just drafted your power forward of the future and signed a center for a 5-year contract.
Yeah, but realistically, the Cavs aren't going to be good for 4 years. Like they're just not going to be great for 4 years.
So you're just signing up for 4 years of shit when might as well bring Lauri Markkanen along.
Having a 7-footer who shoots 40% can make things a lot easier for everyone else and kind of help Sexton, Garland
on one end of the court. On one end of the court, Lauri Markkanen is quite helpful. On another end of the court, where the Cavs are already not great because they have Sexton and Garland, like the Cavs defense is going to be terrible next year.
Yeah, but they've got some pieces defensively that they shouldn't be terrible forever. Okoro is going to be a very good defender. Evan Mobley is going to be a very good defender. Jarrett Allen is a very good defender.
Oh, all players you would play above the guy you just paid $67 million a year.
Yeah, sixth man Lowry, sixth man Markkanen. 40% from three.
And hopefully Taco Fall can find his way onto that roster. Jay, I'm springing this on you right now, and just because I thought of it, because we saw Tristan Price in the comments say RIP Maine Celtics ticket sales. What's the deal with the Maine Celtics? There was no G League last year. They are the Maine Celtics, no longer the Maine Red Claws. RIP Maine Red Claws and the lobster mascot. Do we even know who their coach is? Is it Alex Barlow? Does he get the job? Like, what is the – I know the completely kind of cleaned house with Ime coming aboard, but what's the deal with the Red Claws? I'm just tapping into your journalistic sources. Have you been on the Maine Celtics beat? Has it even been on your mind?
It has not been on my mind. I have no clue what's going on with the Maine Celtics.
That you're gonna need to send some text messages because I want a full report next week.
Yeah, that's not my priority. But I was in Portland, Maine this past weekend.
Lovely place
for a wedding. It was a nice wedding. My buddy got married, and so I was walking around the streets of Portland, Maine, thinking, this place will miss taco one day.
One day, I think they missed taco today.
Yeah.
We did get some questions from the listeners, and one of them was they wanted to spend a good discussion on who gets their second two-way contract, Jay. And so I think another question I think you've probably done a lot of research on. And so I'm open to discussing any names you've heard for that second two-way, any rumors out there, because now that two-way contract is open. I think Tremont Waters, I saw something about him. Actually, no, I think that was just someone wanting him to go to Europe and be like Shane Larkin, but I don't think he actually is going to Europe yet. But I also don't think he's coming back to the Celtics.
So you seem highly informed.
No, that's your job.
Yeah, I don't know who the Celtics will pick up with their two-way. Brad Stevens has said they intend to be flexible, kind of leave it open. I think their plan is to kind of wait to see if someone they really, really like becomes available in that slot. And for now, Sam Hauser is their two-way guy, and he's another shooter.
Yeah, shooter. Apparently, this team needs shooting. That's why
the Maine Celtics won't be as much fun without Taco. It just won't.
Absolutely not. Also, like what the change to the Maine Celtics from the Maine Red Claws, they're eventually just going to move the team to Boston, and they're just going to become like the Boston. And it's going to be like the Oklahoma City Blue, and it's just going to be one organization, and they're going to play games at like BU. I hope.
Maybe.
All right, let's get to the listener questions. I'm going to start off with our main man, Truth Faustino, Eddie, who's basically a segment producer. Look at all these questions he hit us with. He hit us with 5-6 different questions. He comes every week with questions. And so I'm going to let's just follow Eddie's lead here. First one, what's the ideal starting lineup for the Celtics?
I think Marcus Smart, Josh Richardson, Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Robert Wood.
Ooh, I thought you were going to go Horford there for a second.
I almost did, but I think Horford's playmaking will be very good off the bench. I just think that with Smart and Richardson and Tatum and Brown, you have a chance to have an awesome, awesome defense. And I don't think that would be like a perfect offensive lineup. I think it could get a little bumpy at times offensively, but with Tatum, Brown, and Robert Williams, like you're going to score points. And I just think that if you start off with a group that gets after it, if you start off with a group that's going to be in your shit, just hounding you, taking the ball from you, going out in transition, I just think that lifts up the energy for the entire team. And
you still have Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown on the court who can do some things on offense. Like it's not like you're completely terrible on the offensive end. You're certainly not like the best spacing, and we talked about Richardson's struggles. But also, I don't know the exact numbers, but when Robert Williams is on the court, the vertical spacing is phenomenal, and it just does so much for the offense in terms of opening things up. So I agree. I think that's like the kind of the obvious choice. I guess the question I have is like, if you were to make a pivot to, that's clearly like your defensive lineup, like that's your 5 best defensive players. What's the pivot to make it like the most offensive facing lineup? Like, how do you shift things around to kind of like say you just need all offense on the court?
Is Schroeder in that lineup?
So I was trying to figure out, is it Schroeder or is it like hoping that Nesmith can be a consistent 3-point shooter and like knock down the shots? Because I definitely think we'll get some looks of like Schroeder and Marcus Smart on the court at the same time together, because we've seen just Marcus Smart ability to play kind of off-ball guard. But right now, how I envision Schroeder being is just like 6-man completely. He comes in when like at the 4-minute mark of the first quarter when Tatum and Smart like take their first rest, and it's like, okay, you run the offense now. And so I think we're going to see that, but I don't anticipate seeing Smart and Schroeder starting together.
Yeah, that's kind of my thought too. And Ime Udoka has been pretty adamant that he wants to put the ball in Marcus Smart's hands. I don't think you're really doing that if you start Dennis Schroeder. But as far as like if I was building the best offensive lineup, I don't know whether Schroeder would be in that. Now, obviously, he's part of that mix, and I think his ability to score will be important for this team. I just don't know whether that's like starting lineup off the bench. He's a guy who's going to be pretty high usage, has always been pretty high usage, and he's going to probably take possessions away from Tatum and Brown when he's on the court with both of them. So I don't know if they like maximize each other. So I'm curious to see how Schroeder fits in. Like just his lack of outside shooting, the fact that he does kind of need the ball in his hands more often. I want to see it. And I think it's a good signing, especially at that price. Like adding Schroeder in his scoring punch is definitely a good signing. There's a fit for him somewhere in some role. I just don't know what that is. And I think Udoka has kind of a job in front of him to figure out what that is. He was maximized in Oklahoma City. Like that was the best year he's had when he was alongside Chris Paul and Shai Gilgeous a lot. And they really did a good job using him and getting him to be super efficient. If the Celtics can do that, if he can buy into that type of role where he's a sixth man and doing that type of stuff and playing off other guys, and that's awesome. Like he'll be very, very good for the Celtics. But I do think like it's not a perfect fit, and so we'll see how that goes.
I got a question from David JB, just asking if Schroeder could he be traded this year just because it's on that kind of 1-year show me deal, and he asked if he could be traded for a larger salary player that might fit into the TPE. Can you not combine TPEs and players, right, in trades?
Well, here's the thing about trading Schroeder. He probably doesn't have much value because part of the reason he went to Boston, part of the reason he signed a 1-year deal was because he thinks he's worth a lot more money than that, and he wants to play himself into a bigger contract. So
if he's playing well, you probably want to keep him. And if he's not playing well, then he has no value.
So and if you do trade for him, you're going to have to pay up to keep him, or he's going to be looking for another place that will pay up to keep him. So I don't think he has much value. Obviously, his deal at some point will be able to be aggregated with other people's salaries. But I think the plan for now is to have Schroeder on the team and a helpful piece somehow as a scorer and a little offensive creation, and kind of give the Celtics a different element, especially an element they need after losing Kemba Walker, being able to get in the paint and do some things with the basketball.
So if he's not, like, because you mentioned his usage and like how he needs the basketball, like obviously you want players who fit well around Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. If Schroeder's not the guy, and it's going to use a classic Bradism, it's not the guys who start, the guys who finish. But if you need offense in the final 5 minutes, I think you have Marcus Smart, both the Jays and Robert Williams on the court. Who is the kind of the fifth guy?
Are you definitely discounting Horford from that?
I was going to say is it could. I think there's 3 candidates, and I was curious.
Definitely Robert Williams.
Oh no, he's the core 4 are on there. I'm saying there's 3 candidates for who that 5th guy is to kind of maximize, and it could be matchup dependent. But if it's not Schroeder, I think Horford has an opportunity. It's going to be interesting to see. Like, obviously, he was the most effective when he's playing the 5, and like you can run stuff through him and do pick and pop stuff. And I still think he'll probably play some backup center minutes. But I'm curious to see what it looks like with him and Robert Williams on the court, and then kind of just shifting Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum down. Like, can Al Horford still play power forward? Obviously, it did not work in Philadelphia, but they also had like Ben Simmons, who just doesn't like work at all. If you're going to have two giant big men, like you need some like sort of space. And I think it has a chance to work more.
And Tobias Harris sliding down, like that was less effective too. So there were a lot of things that were wrong with Al Horford at power forward in Philadelphia. I don't know whether he can still play power forward. I think the Celtics believe that in at least small doses he can still play power forward. We'll see.
Given their like lack of depth at the position, it would be great for them if they can kind of pull those lineups off.
Yeah, that would be very helpful for them. Like if they could start Al Horford and then if you had Schroeder, Richardson, Enes Kanter, and
I have completely forgot that Enes Kanter is back on this team, and I know once the season starts, that's not going to be the case because Enes Kanter will make sure his face will be in front of the camera. But wow, Enes back! Yeah, I completely forgot about him. Is he going to play? Is he like what's the situation at center? Does that mean they're planning for Al Horford to get a lot of the power forward minutes? And like, we just don't know. I completely forgot about Enes, but he feels like the type of guy who's going to want like 15 minutes a game.
I don't think he'll care. He never has cared when there were times during his first stint in Boston when he was out of the rotation. He never really made us think about it.
He got a pretty consistent, like there wasn't that like extended stretches. I feel like he got pretty consistent minutes for his entire time in Boston.
There were just a few times, but yeah. So if Horford starts at power forward, that opens up minutes for Kanter. If either Horford or Robert Williams misses time, that opens up minutes for Enes Kanter. So I think he'll end up playing a role one way or another. And then, yeah, we'll see. I mean, Horford's 35 and Robert Williams has always been injury prone. So having a guy who can get points and get rebounds and impact your offense while not always impacting your defense in a positive way, it's helpful to have that guy on a minimum contract. Especially like during the regular season, Kanter's normally pretty good.
Kanter on a minimum.
There are obviously some tough matchups for him, but like he's pretty helpful during the regular season. If you use him the right way, he's going to be helpful and help your team win games. So yeah, he's another guy. And I think also like because of how bad the Celtics are at shooting, it will help to have two elite offensive rebounders in Enes Kanter and Robert Williams. Like those guys are cream of the crop in that sense. So I think they might have a lot of chances to offensive rebound. We'll see. It's a weird roster, man. Like it really is just a weird roster.
Because the other two players, I think you could imagine coming in and like sliding in around those four are Aaron Nesmith and Payton Pritchard. Like I think Payton Pritchard has shown like we talk about the need for shooting. Him in summer league at least has like a willingness to shoot from deep. One of Jay King's favorite skills for a point guard to have is to kind of have that extended range.
I just thought Kemba should have extended it.
Just go with the joke. Just go with the joke for 2 seconds, Jay.
I won't go. I will not let you spread.
So you don't like extended shooting. Jay King hates extended shooting from point guards.
Extended shooting is good.
So I think that's the other thing. If you're going for all offense, Payton Pritchard and Aaron Nesmith are clearly your best shooters off the bench. Nesmith clearly fits in, I think, better defensively, just in terms of what you mentioned of having switchable guys who can guard the wings and puts kind of less pressure on the Celtics, like kind of stars to be guard the bigger guys on the other team. I just think Payton Pritchard right now has proven to be more NBA ready and gives you a little bit more passing and playmaking. And I think he's just a solid option right now. I don't really know what his role is though, given that Schroeder is kind of the sixth man, the guy who comes in and handles the offense or the second unit offense. I don't know where Payton Pritchard fits in, but it kind of sucks for him. And I'm sure he'll like find a role because he really seems like he's always working his ass off and like waking up 5 a.m, do dribbling drills. I don't think he's probably still doing that, but he did that in high school. And that's just like what I imagine Payton Pritchard to be doing at all times. But I do think he like is NBA ready and can kind of give you something that no one really else on the team has, which is his combination of shooting and then ability to get to the rim, playmaking. It's just not something else they have on the bench.
Yeah, so Udoka will have a lot of decisions to make because, like you said, like where do Neesmith and Pritchard fit in? I feel like those two guys are going to have to really earn their way onto the court this year, whereas last year, like I'm not to say that Pritchard didn't earn it, but like the Celtics needed a guy very badly.
We need someone to dribble the
play
basketball. Yeah.
Whereas this year, Brad Stevens said it during his most recent press conference, they have 7 guys who have started a lot of games, who have closed a lot of games, and that doesn't include Pritchard, that doesn't include Neesmith, that doesn't include Cantor, guys who will be fighting for minutes. So they're deeper for sure than they were at least at the start of last season. And so we'll see what Udoka decides. One thing I'm interested in is Robert Williams versus Al Horford. I don't think Robert Williams is necessarily going to win that competition every time. Now, would it be best for the Celtics if he does? Yes, absolutely, because that means he's progressing. That means the young guy, potential franchise cornerstone, is earning that spot. But Al Horford's very good, and Al Horford.
I have a T-shirt that expresses that exact sentiment.
Al Horford can shoot. He makes all the right decisions. He's a mature basketball player.
He has a lot of experience being like the defensive captain and like the last line of defense and calling out everything. Like I don't know if Robert Williams is necessarily there right now.
Yeah, so I don't think it's automatic that like Robert Williams will start over Horford or Robert Williams will close games over Horford. Like there were a lot of times last year when Robert Williams did not close games or he did not start games. And obviously that was partly due to his body, partly due to the Celtics limiting his minutes, partly due to Brad Stevens probably just not giving him enough playing time.
Partly due to Tristan Thompson pouting in the corner if he didn't finish the game.
But at the same point, like I do think that competition is something to watch. And I mean, if you're a Celtics fan, you probably want Robert Williams to win that and win that decisively because he's going to be a long-term part of this. Whereas Al Horford is 35 and who knows if he'll be in Boston longer than 1 year. So this time around. So that's one thing I'm really interested in watching. And they could also just start together. And maybe that'll be good because Horford, like, we didn't really get to see him at power forward much last year. We certainly didn't get to see him at power forward with, like, any sort of competent team around him. So,
I mean, the last time we did, it was him and Aaron Baines, and it was worked out pretty well for them.
Yeah, so we'll see whether he can still handle that. If he can, I think that's a big deal for the Celtics, and it gives them a very deep rotation of guys who can play like significant minutes. Like if you're bringing Josh Richardson, Dennis Schroeder, Enes Kanter, Aaron Neesmith, and Payton Pritchard up, like that's a good bench. It's a pretty good bench.
And then you also have, like, you just mentioned 5 guys, or apparently are not in the starting lineup. I guess I think 9 guys if you included Richardson in that. Where do Grant Williams, who has shown some signs of being a solid basketball player, and then has kind of struggled in his sophomore year, and where does Romeo Langford fit into? Like, what do those guys need to do to kind of earn minutes on the roster? I think it just makes the NBA season is very long, and sometimes people don't really start paying attention till after the Super Bowl or after the All-Star break. But all of these questions about it's up on these guys to kind of earn their roles. It feels like there's only 3 guys where we know it's like Tatum, Brown, and Smart. You guys are starters, and you guys are going to carry this team. But everything after that, it feels like it's on the players to kind of like define their own roles by playing on the court. And so, like, I think Grant and Romeo are right now at like positions 10 and 11 or 11 and 12. I don't know the counting, but like, what do they need to do to kind of get onto the court and actually like earn a place in the rotation?
I think Grant just needs to be solid. Like defend your position, defend other positions, stop fouling all the time. Stop offensive fouling all the time. Stop turning the ball over and hit a shot at a reasonable rate. That's really his path to playing time. And I think the Celtics, like, they could use a guy at that position with size and bulk and
some physical toughness. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think it's out of the question for him to earn minutes, but like you said, he's going to have to earn them because the Celtics could just play smaller. They don't have to use somebody like that at power forward. And then Romeo, it's like, are you playing 4-on-5 with him on the court offensively? He just needs to, whether it's by becoming a shooter, whether it's by becoming a slasher, he needs to be productive in some way offensively, so that his defensive aptitude can win out over his like total lack of offense.
I think it's an interesting question about like how much of a chance do they give Romeo to kind of still make mistakes out there, or is like, and it leads to this next question from love this handle, P-Dub the Legend. What are the internal expectations for this year and looking and sounding like? And I think that kind of like blends into my thought is like, is this team looking to win a bunch of games and like really try to like improve their standings in the East? Or are they like a little bit more willing to kind of give guys like Romeo or Nesmith or kind of younger guys a little bit more of a leash to, I guess, develop as players? Like what are the expectations of this team? Are they really pushing for the top like spot in the East, or like how good do they think they are?
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that they're not going to just hand their young guys minutes, because they went out and got Richardson, they went out and got Schroeder, they went out and got Enes Kanter, the guys and Al Horford. They went out and got guys who will play over their young guys if their young guys are not good. And I think one of the things that frustrated Brad Stevens about last season was he had to play those young guys no matter what. He had to throw Jeff Teague in the starting lineup sometimes, or Carson Edwards in the starting.
He didn't have to do that. He chose to do that.
But my point is, like, he was forced to play guys who were borderline NBA players, and he didn't want to put Ime Udoka in that situation, I think. So they are a little deeper now, and they, like, even you look at Pritchard and Nesmith, like, even those guys, they're not like proven yet, but Pritchard had a pretty promising rookie season. Aaron Nesmith, by the end of his rookie season, was contributing regularly. So like even the guys who are further down the rotation, or we think could be further down the rotation, they have proven themselves more capable than like a Romeo Langford, who hadn't really done anything, or like entering last season, the guys in those spots weren't as accomplished as Pritchard and Nesmith are. So I just think they've gotten a little more experienced, and they needed to after what happened last season.
The thing is, like, we also are doing like these projections in our head of like what the rotation is and things like going to be like. NBA seasons are filled with injuries. And so like we talk about the top 9 guys and like Grant and Romeo maybe not getting a chance. They're going to get a chance because Al Horford is old and might get hurt, or there might be just random injuries other places. And it's classic cliche, but I do think it's true, especially for role players in this league, is like being able to be ready and being able to come in when you don't know if your number is going to be called and actually produce. Like I think it's something very difficult for players to kind of adjust to, but I think that's what like makes the best role players is. And so I think that's what Grant and Romeo need to do. If like everything's going well for the Celtics and they're fully healthy, yeah, Grant and Romeo probably are not going to get a lot of minutes, but they need to be the type of players who are ready and able to contribute and don't necessarily need their like 12 minutes a game to be solid NBA players. And I feel like it's probably more difficult for Romeo just because he's like been a star his entire career. And I feel like Grant's more of like has more experience, at least in the NBA, being that role player. But like that is very much part of what they need to do, is just like if their number is called, they need to come in and be able to perform immediately. And I think that's kind of part of the maturation process of an NBA player.
Yeah, and the ups and downs for a young guy can be really tough. Like if it's hard to kind of trust in yourself enough to know, okay, if I get 8 minutes today, I need to trust myself to play well in those 8 minutes. If I don't play well in those 8 minutes, I need to be confident enough to come back the next game and play well. If I do play well,
you can't get too high, you can't get too low, some would say.
Another Brad Stevensism.
I'm so Brad
How
pilled.
will we be saying Brad Stevensism?
As long as I am the host of this podcast, that man gave me one 30-minute interview one-on-one, and I'm subscribed to his personal lifestyle coachings for the rest of my life. Kaizen. It's still on the beam in the practice facility. I can still see it when I drive by. All right, final question from Seltzer Ogilvy at Ogilvy Seltzer. Is Jayson beefing up specifically for contact at the rim, or is this part of a long-term strength program? And this is in reference to some workout pics we saw with a very muscular Jayson Tatum doing lifts with a 100-pound barbell. Jay, what is your impression of dummy thick Jayson Tatum?
I've got a rant.
Ooh, let's hear it.
I've got a rant. The overreaction to these photos is so stupid. I am 30 pounds overweight right now. If you took a photo of me while I was lifting weights, I would look shredded, because that's what happens when people lift weights. They look swole. That's just how it goes. So yes, Jayson Tatum looked very big. Yes, he's probably put on some weight, certainly from the time he got into the NBA until now. Yes, if he does put on a lot of muscle and get stronger at the rim and lean into bully ball, as Ime Udoka called it, it will be helpful. Do I think he's going to be like Giannis big next year? No. Is he going to be Semi Ojeleye big next year? No, because these are photos of him in the middle of working out. So of course he looks shredded like anyone would, even my fat ass.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. But he does look bigger. I mean, he is getting a pump. The question is will he embrace contact, or will he still complain about every single foul call at the rim? And will his because I do think that's like one thing that he probably needs to improve upon, even though he did make I think a huge leap in terms of his floater around the rim, but just like finishing around the rim and finishing through contact. So maybe it's the 25 pounds of muscle, best shape of his life, that he added this offseason. I'm just imagining. Do you think he says that on media day, like that he's in the best shape of his life?
Everyone says that on media day.
No, I mean, usually it's like one or two players on the team, but it is a go-to media day cliche. But I do think it's like part of the game. If there's things that Jayson Tatum needs to improve upon, like I do think finishing through contact is one of them, and drawing fouls is one of them. And part of drawing fouls is embracing contact and not being shying away. I think he kind of tries to avoid it a lot. I'm not gonna say a lot of the times, but some of the times he looks to do some fancier shit when he should just go right through guys. And so, yes, we can make, like, people are way too hyped about just like Jayson Tatum working out pictures, but I do think that is like the next evolution of his game is for him to be the superstar. For him, like I think we talked 2 weeks ago about like what can Jayson Tatum do to kind of get in that MVP conversation. Get to the line to like 8 to 10 times a game. Like, and part of that is just getting stronger and like having a willingness to get like go up and get that contact.
Yeah, I think it's obvious that getting to the line is kind of the next frontier for him. And he's made strides over the years. I think he did it as well as ever during that Nets playoff series. And it felt like even within that playoff series, he kind of evolved to a place where, okay, I'm going to play through your contact. I'm going to create the contact, and I'm going to get exactly where I want, and there's not a damn thing you can do to stop me. And I think he's kind of grown from the point where, like, he was a pretty skinny rookie. But now he's strong. Like, even this past season before these swole photos came out, he was strong enough to play through guys. He was strong enough to do that to a lot of the guys guarding him. And I think it's just kind of him understanding his spots, him understanding the mentality of, okay, I'm one of the stronger guys now, and I don't have to go around guys. I can just go into their chest. I can create contact. I can get to the free throw line. It's going to be a lot easier than it used to be. And I think he just needs to realize that and kind of lean into that. Like I said, that Nets series, I thought more than ever he was playing with the physicality to just kind of go at guys and go through guys. And if he does that all the time, when he does do that, like, there are very few guys who can stop an aggressive, physical Jayson Tatum. And I just think I will make fun of the overreaction to the photos, but the stronger he gets, the easier it's going to be for him to manufacture those points, whether at the free throw line and ones, getting to the hoop more and more easily. So it is big for him to get stronger.
I was very happy to hear that you are 30 pounds overweight right now, as someone who has challenged you to one-on-one basketball. And I believe we're playing in 11 days. I just want to know, are you ready mentally? When's the last time? I think I saw on your Instagram you made a shot. So that was a little intimidating, but just how you feeling about the battle? And have you thought of what you want the stakes to be for this epic battle that's taking place September 12th? Because I have what I want from you if I win.
Well, what do you want? Let's start there.
Well, everyone knows that I'm making this embarrassing push to try and put myself to 10,000 followers on Twitter.
You still haven't gotten to 10,000 followers? You've been trying to get to that for like 3 months.
I've hit a real threshold. I'm at, let's check, 9,388. I need that 600 followers. I will say, and I will give you a lot of credit for this, the majority of my followers come from when you say something like, go follow Sam Packard. Like the J King bump has been responsible for, I would say, at least 2,000 of my followers. And so if I beat you in one-on-one, I want 2 tweets to be deployed at my choosing for fast follow, go follow Sam Packard.
Yeah.
And this is what I offer up to you. If you beat me, and I think what I think you're going to do is be like, I don't want any of that because there's nothing you could give me because I'm Jay King and I'm obviously going to beat you. But I will offer this up to you to make it more interesting. There are times in an NBA season where a reporter like yourself maybe can't tweet his opinion, where I, as a professional sports fan, have more leverage, more ability to do so. Or there's times where you might not want to ask a question in a press conference because you don't want to piss off a relationship. I'm offering you 2 opportunities, and you can use them at any time, where you will text me and I will have to tweet it, or I will have to ask that question in a post-game press conference. And it's just, you get that information out there, but it's never traced back to Jay King.
No, because if I want to ask a question, I'll just ask a question. That's
not true.
It is.
That's not how the business works. How many times do we go like post-game scrums and then people will be like, you should ask that? Mostly it's just Himmelsbach always daring me to ask dumb things. And so basically I was just giving you the opportunity to make me look like an idiot. But
no, you do that on your own pretty well. So what should...
I'm just trying to think of like what I can do to offer you. Like I do have ability to tweet out more nonsense or more opinions than the objective journalist Jay King does.
Honestly, like I don't want anything for winning because
I knew this is exactly what you were going to say.
It's just easy. It's like
you're 30 pounds overweight.
That doesn't
I will
matter.
run past you. It matters in playing defense in basketball.
I can move fine enough to play defense on your ass.
30 pounds moves hard to move to side.
It doesn't
matter. Can you jump? Like, it's harder to jump when you're 30 pounds overweight. Can you rise above the rim?
No, I cannot rise above the rim.
With your negative wingspan?
I do have a negative wingspan. But
I got a positive wingspan. I got limbs for days.
That's fine.
You're not going to win. It matters so much more to me than it does to you. Although I feel like get ready to get me over 10,000 followers, because I'm going to be deploying that like at the peak time when the most amount of eyeballs are on Twitter, and it's going to be key to my journey. Where do you think we should play? I feel like we should tell the listeners out there, if people are in Boston, they can come out and support. Probably everyone should be supporting me because I'm the underdog. Nate Schofer wants to play. I was actually in the North End recently. They got a nice little court there right by the water. I thought that would be a nice little
Would
NBA
you go
street.
on that after seeing my Instagram?
I know. Was that the shot on that?
Langone Park or whatever it's called with the bocce?
Yeah, but they just opened that up. It's very nice.
Don't tell people that. No, I don't want anyone else there because nobody's ever there.
Except for us on September 12th when we play one-on-one. If you want to come out, I also have some random stuff. If like any listeners actually do come out and watch us play one-on-one, That'd be awesome. It'd just
What
be
time are
fun.
we playing on September 12th?
You tell me. You're the
We got to
champion.
pick a time. We got to let people know what time we're playing.
2 p.m.
2 p.m. it is.
2 p.m. September 12th in the North End at Langone Park. Game to 11, 1s and 2s. Call your own fouls. Although if you call shit,
game 15.
Game 15, even better for me because you got no endurance. You're just going to rely on your busted ass jumper, and
it's not busted at all. It's a beautiful thing.
I'll be up in your face all day. All right, to wrap it up, we got to talk about Ben Simmons and the 76ers just because
you love shitting on the 76ers.
I absolutely love shitting on the 76ers. I have my Shoot a 3 coward shirt right here. I promised to give, I have 2 of these. I promised to give one of them away if Ben Simmons was traded because it's mostly a Philadelphia 76ers hate t-shirt. But we got reports that he's willing to go to any team in the league. And then we got Joel Embiid coming out and like quote tweeting it and saying it's nonsense and the 76ers don't have to choose between them.
Why did Embiid come at all basketball reporters or all reporters in general with that?
Because he's sick of sources close to the situation.
Bro, he came out directly after they lost, was it game 6, game 7, whatever it was. He came out directly shitted on his own teammate.
He did it in this own tweet storm. He talks about how stop using my name to push drama, and then later goes, for the clarity, I love criticism. I love when I'm told I can't do something. It makes me work harder to prove everyone wrong, but not everyone is built like that. He might not have meant it as a subtweet about Ben Simmons, but it directly feels like he's talking about some people aren't ready for that kind of criticism in the press.
I will say, Embiid coming out like that, I enjoyed it. I think finally he's had his teammates back in all this. How much longer will Ben Simmons be on the 76ers? Probably not much longer.
It doesn't seem like much longer.
But who knows? Maybe this is the way to mend the fence. I do think it's going to be very tough for the 76ers to trade Ben Simmons, who's close to defensive player of the year caliber, who is a great passer, is 6'10", and can play multiple positions. It's tough to move that guy and get better. It really is. Like there aren't many ways, especially when you need a second star next to Embiid.
There's no trade that's been proposed that makes sense for the 76ers just in terms of value.
Yeah, so if he has to come back, I think maybe this Embiid tweet storm is like a bridge to allowing that to happen without ruining everything.
But it's not like he's defending Simmons. He just kind of came out because he got dragged into it because the report was that
he loves playing with Ben Simmons, and he said he hopes everyone comes back because they know they have enough to win it. So
they were the number 1 team in the East last year. It's very hard. I know they struggled in the playoffs, and obviously Ben Simmons
and Danny Green didn't play, and they didn't have much depth at that spot.
Okay, Dave Dufour, let's calm down with the Danny Green.
That was a Dave Dufour type of comment.
It's just it's kind of wild that they were the first seed in the East, and you don't run it back. You just have hope that your players get a little bit better. Was the failing that bad? Wow, I'm actually just complimenting the 76ers right now, but they were a pretty damn good team last year with the best defense in the league or top 3 or something like that. It's pretty wild. I think this is helpful for them for Embiid coming out so they're not in a position where they feel like they have to trade Ben Simmons, but it's interesting. It doesn't seem like Ben Simmons really wants to play with 76ers because we've heard rumors he'll approve a trade to Cleveland. That's not I don't know the validity of that, but it seems like a tough situation for the 76ers, and that just makes things more fun on my end as a Celtics fan.
Yeah, you love when the 76ers are squirming a little bit.
Well, it's just more fun that way, and it's a city of cowards, and
it's actually a city that would beat the shit out of you.
I lived in Philadelphia for 2 years, and I know that entirely. They would beat the shit out of me.
That crowd is harsh. That is the harshest crowd in the league, and I enjoy every second of it.
Is it out of every stadium you've been to? They're the meanest. Yeah, they boo pretty, and they'll pretty quick to say "fuck you" to a specific player and have the entire stadium chant that player's name.
they'll boo Simmons when he like turns down a shot. They booed Markelle Fultz literally in his second preseason game. They were booing him, and I was sitting there like, what is going on? Like this guy was just the #1 pick, and already they're booing the piss out of him. Just a very unforgiving bunch.
Unforgiving bunch who should be happy because they live in the land of water ice and Wawas and hoagies. And Jay King, I just want to ask you, are Wawa hoagies potable?
Not if
anything is potable.
I'm gonna whoop your ass.